Ladies and gentlemen, participants, by my clock, it is now 10 a.m. So I hand over the controls to Michael Abebe, who will take us through the program until we are joined by Julian. Michael,
I think
please.
Julian has come. I saw his name. Yeah.
Julian, we are ready to go.
We see. No, he's not here.
He's not yet here, Michael. We are
he's waiting on the waiting room, I think. I see. Julian Haro is also waiting for the link to be connected as a panelist. I read on the chat box.
So as not to lose time.
Okay.
As we try to sort out Julian.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Just to give you some remarks before we start the programs, some housekeeping parts. Welcome to the sessions with the title of Enhanced Collaboration Between Energy and Water Planners in the Nile region. And also, I would like to provide some housekeeping rules before we start. Please write your name, affiliation, and country of residence so that everyone in the session can see who is participating. Presenters and panelists, please turn off your microphone if you are not speaking. And the general remark questions can be posed via chat functionality. Presenters and panelists can respond to the questions and will also able to address the questions during the panel discussions. So now we can start the programs. As per the programs, there will be a keynote speaker. So I would like to invite Mr. Leb, the Executive Director of the Eastern Africa Power Pool, to make a welcoming remarks. Mr. Webb, Mr. Lebi.
Thank you very much. Yeah, good morning, all participants. I will make an opening remarks on behalf of East African Power Pool. Invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, may I take this opportunity to make a few remarks as we start the virtual workshop session on enhanced collaboration between energy and water planners in the Nile region. First of all, on behalf of the East African Power Pool General Secretariat, I would like to welcome you all to attend this important visual workshop session organized by EAPP, Nile-based initiative, and the University of Manchester. No. As you are aware, the Eastern African Power Pool is the main regional organization actively working in the optimization of the energy resources to ensure provision of adequate, reliable, affordable, and environmentally sustainable electric energy within the Eastern African region, where Nile Basin is a subset. To achieve our energy resource optimization objectives, we frequently undertake regional generation and transmission expansion master plan development exercises. In these exercises, we use commercially available optimization, simulation tools, and evaluate a large number of supply alternatives and select the least cost investment option. This way, we identify the regional interconnection lines as well as generation resources that need to be developed. Each of our member countries so as the region satisfy the growing demand reliably with affordable energy prices. Hydro being the abundant resource in the region, it is always a challenge to determine the energy generation capabilities of the existing as well as the candidate hydropower projects, and the use result in our generation planning exercises. These water resources has also different competitive usage for irrigation and the water supply uses that need to be evaluated very well. This is a usual cooperation that normally requires the involvement of water resource planners and their collaboration with the energy planners. Ladies and gentlemen, our region is part of the developing world where both our population and our economies are growing at a higher pace than the rest of the world. This results to a much faster growth in demand for energy, water, and also food. With the growth, the interdependence is significantly increasing. Not only hydro, but almost all energy generation processes require significant amounts of water, which is already becoming scarce. On the other hand, the treatment and transport of water requires energy, mainly in the form of electricity. These trade-offs between energy and the water resource is what is termed as the energy-water nexus, and we have reached at a stage where we cannot shy away without giving it the necessary attention. We need to find ways with joint development and management, we maximizing core benefits and minimizing negative trade-offs. That is, when assessing the needs of the energy sector, water planners and the decision makers must fully understand the requirements of electricity generation technologies and their potential impact on the water resources. Similarly, energy planners must take into account the complexities of the hydrological cycle and other competing uses when assessing plans and investments. We need to work for an integrated energy and water planning approach that can ensure that both resources are developed sustainably as well as their synergies explored more effectively. It is important to create innovative approaches that encourage cross-sectional cooperation and assess water and energy trade-offs at the regional and the national levels, thereby ensuring that future demands will be met sustainably. It is with this collaborative thinking that EAPP is participating in the future DEMS projects, and I hope that sooner than later, the project will come up with promising decision-making tool that will ease the efforts of the region's energy and the water planners. Ladies and gentlemen, with those few remarks, allow me to announce that this important visual webinar session is open, and I hope that it will be a very pleasant and cohesive one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Levy, for such comprehensive remark. I think now, just to remind the participants again who joined lately, please write your name, affiliation, and country of residence so that everyone in the session can see who is participating. Thank you. Now I hand over it to Professor Julie to take over the moderator.
Okay, thank you so much, Michael. Just checking that, can people see my screen there?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So thank you, Secretary General Changula from the EAPP, East African Power Pool. It's wonderful that you were able to open this session. Thank you so much for being there and for giving us this motivating initial talk. So we're still now in the opening and keynote session. And let me just quickly show you the speakers that we have aligned. So we had EAPP is playing a big role in welcoming us here today in this session. We have the keynote speakers section next, and then we'll have 5 technical 10-minute talks, and then we'll finish with a half an hour of discussion with our panelists, which are noted here. I won't introduce them, so we keep moving quickly. So now, if possible, I will introduce Technical Director Gabriel Hewitt from the East African Power Pool, who will give the keynote session. We're delighted to have him, and thanks very much.
Thank you very much, moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. All protocols observant. First of all, allow me to thank the host of this session for the opportunity to speak on behalf of AFP on this part of the webinar under a theme titled Enhanced Collaboration Between Energy and Water Planners in the Nile region. As you are aware, the Nile region is a subset of the AFP region, of course, constitutes a major part of it. The AFP is established with an overarching objective of optimizing the development and usage of generation resources and power system interconnection lines in the Eastern Africa region to ensure provision of reliable, affordable, and sustainable energy services. A realization of such objective requires highly collaborative approach in power system expansion planning, project implementation, interconnected power system operation, and electricity market development. As you are aware, the hydro power potential in the EAPP footprint is considered as the major driver of regional power system integration, at least for the coming 2 to 3 decades. And hence, the need for collaborative approach between water and energy planners is obvious. The APP Regional Power System Expansion Master Plan defines 2 levels of regional coordination in relation to the development of the regional power grid. The first level of regional coordination presumes national generation planning and implementation, while emphasizing the need for member countries' collaboration in the development of power transmission facilities to allow for savings from coordinated operation of the automated system. Of course, the national generation planning exercise is not conducted in a vacuum for members of the power pool and is expected to be guided by insights from the regional power system. The second level represents regionally coordinated planning and implementation of generation and transmission projects, and requires the highest level of collaboration between member countries. Based on the findings of the APP Master Plan, the overall economic benefit accrued to the region increased by about 30% in the second level of regional coordination compared to the first level. The gap between the 2 levels is expected to even increase as the need for investment on renewable generation resources grow in order to meet the UN Sustainable Development Goals. That suggests the need for enhanced collaboration on generation planning and investment going forward. This is so because the major component of the lifetime cost of renewable energy technologies relates with initial investment cost and operation and maintenance. However, current practice in the EAPP region at large remains at the first level of regional coordination, with few exceptions. Namely, the Great Lakes region, which demonstrated joint planning and implementation of electric power infrastructure projects. The EAPP will continue to promote joint planning and implementation of energy generation projects. As the higher the level of collaboration, the greater the benefit to the parties. That said, in crude terms, to highlight the need for collaborative approach to realize the full benefits of transboundary or other common interest regional projects in general. Let me talk about a case of joint energy generation and transmission project implementation in our region and in Central America, with a view to provide insight on some of the drivers of joint implementation of energy projects in different contexts. One relates with the availability of shared generation resource to be developed on a transboundary water resource, and another is the need to expand existing electricity. The case of the Great Lakes region joint hydropower plants development in East Africa will be considered as an example of shared resource as a driver of joint planning and implementation in our project. Currently, I'm not saying that it's the only driver behind the decision to act jointly in this particular case, as other economic related incentives could also play a significant role in it. One could argue that when countries in a region share energy generation resources, in most cases it becomes difficult to harness the energy potential unilaterally. The resource, if developed jointly, will normally be a means of cooperation rather than a source of conflict. This is a common case when rivers create national borders or cross it and become a resource not only of one country, all neighboring states. Operative management and development of shared rivers in general yields higher benefit compared to unilateral approach, such as increased food and energy production. Operation on the development of this type of resource results in the reduction of additional costs due to tensions generated because of common resource. An example of this type of cooperation is the case of hydropower development on the Ruzizi and Kagera rivers within the Great Lakes region. This river is a shared resource among Democratic Republic Congo, Rwanda, Burundi, while the Kagera is a shared resource in the same region between Rwanda, Burundi, and Tanzania. Ruzizi hydro plants are located on Ruzizi River, which flows from Lake Kivu to Lake Tanganyika. The section between DRC and Rwanda has a 700 meters waterfall, with an estimated hydro potential of 500 megawatts. First of the Ruzizi power plants was constructed in late 50s at the outlet of the natural Lake Kivu. It has a generating capacity of about 30 megawatts. Ruzizi 1 is owned and operated by the National Electricity Corporation of DRC. The plant was serving the three neighboring countries, Burundi, Rwanda, and Democratic Congo. There was common grid from the power plant to the different substations in the three countries. In the year 1976, the countries created an institution called Energy of Great Lakes, EGL, to promote joint energy development and to prepare a long-term development plan to supply electricity to the region. In response to the demand growth and the energy deficits encountered in the region in late 80s, EGL decided to construct the Ruzizi 2 power plant, raise electricity access in the region, meets the region's electricity needs to mid-90s. In the project design, the country set up a common multinational public company named Senilac to construct, own, and operate the Ruzizi 2 power plant and to sell the electricity produced equally to the three member states through their national electricity companies. The three governments each own a third of the company, with the three national power companies responsible for contributing the government's share of Senilac. Between 1991 and 2001, the cooperation reached at the stage where CENILAC provided an average 45%, 70%, and 21% of the national production of electric power within the connected grid, intended for Rwanda, Burundi, and DR Congo respectively. As per the program for the development of infrastructure in Africa, that is PIDA assessment made in year 2018, the three countries again started to encounter problems in meeting demand for electricity due to the lack of major investment for over a decade in the context of high population growth and the multiplication of socio-economic development efforts. Recognizing the need for increased generation capacity, EGL in earlier years had been tasked by the three countries to facilitate development of the Ruzizi 3 hydroelectric power plant. Ruzizi 3 entails the construction of a run-of river dam downstream from the Ruzizi 2 hydro power dam. The 147 megawatt power plant is 220 kV recharge, 10 kilometer 120 kV transmission line, and a 220 kV substation. At the completion of the plant, Burundi's current total capacity double, while Rwanda's will increase by half. The RS's share will contribute to raising supply in the eastern region. While also significantly reducing the percentage of thermal generation in the region. This project is packaged to be developed under a public-private partnership arrangement, where a project company will be responsible for design, construction funding, operation, and maintenance over a 25-year concession period. Expected to commence operation around 2024. The three countries will collectively own 30% of the project company, while the consortium will own the remaining. Another project of similar nature under implementation in the region is the Sumo Falls hydropower plant. The Sumo Falls hydropower plant, which is 80 megawatt, is located on Kagera River at the southeast of Rwanda, bordering northwest of Tanzania. The project is being developed jointly by Burundi, Rwanda, and Tanzania, who shares the river. An agreement for ownership joint development is signed February 20. A new company named Sumo, our company limited, in for the overseas development, construction, operation of the plant. The company will be publicly owned, but is to be managed by a private company. Each of the three countries own an equal share. Contract for civil and electromechanical works have been awarded to different contractors, and construction work has already started. The expected date of commissioning. Power utilities of respective governments are responsible for the transmission lines development, construction, operation, and management. When it comes to my second point, which emphasizes the need for expansion of existing trade in a given region as a driver of joint action, one could say the experience of Central America output. The need for expansion of electricity trade could stem from economic or strategic consideration or both. In most regions around the globe, cooperation in power trade usually starts with development of cross-border interconnection lines between two neighboring countries. Such lines generally are designed based on the supply-demand situation of the two neighboring countries and tend to have limited transfer capacity in light of the power trade potential in the overall region in which these countries belong. Within one region, there can be several such small interconnection lines in neighboring countries which are suboptimal in the context of the needs to foster multilateral electricity trading. However, such bilateral interconnection lines are still instrumental to achieve savings by coordination of system cooperation between two countries and also provide insights on potential benefits of expanded multilateral electricity trade, leading to enhanced region-wide collaboration. Often, the existing lines will be faced with a number of operational problems as the region-wide cooperation enhances, and the need for larger transactions becomes evident. Such development requires reinforcement of existing network or installation of higher capacity new transmission lines that significantly increase the trade volume and avoid the various system operation bottlenecks. Such situation necessitates joint development of a regional transmission system. As I pointed out, a good example is the case of Central America Interconnected Network project, or the CIPEC project. In the Central America region, several bilateral transmission lines were implemented before the CIPEC project. This includes Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Guatemala, El Salvador, Costa Rica, Panama, El Salvador, Honduras. When the desire to transact larger volume grow, the then existing bilateral connection system start facing operational problems, capacity limitations, stability problems, and equipment problems. Coordinated effort by countries of the region to remove the observed problems resulted in a consideration of the CIPEC regional project. The project comprised of two components: the creation and implementation of a regional electricity market, MER, that is the supranational wholesale market, to serve as the basis for investing in the integrated transmission system, and the development and construction of the first regional transmission system spanning from Panama to Guatemala to be able to physically operate the market. The 1,800 kilometer 230 kV line is built, owned and operated by a project company named EPR, or Network Owner Company, formed for this role. This company is owned in equal shares by each of the 6 states or national transmission companies, the dominant state-owned utilities of 2 neighboring countries, Mexico and Colombia, and 1 private sector partner. Private sector was leading the transmission project management and overseeing private contractor. Just to highlight some benefits of joint development of such regional power projects, jointly developed regional projects highly attract the participation of development financing institutions. With attractive financing terms, it definitely impact the electricity cost of the region, reduce financial closing periods of projects, and also create a forum for continued engagement of member countries at all levels, that is from political to technical level, and therefore highly reduce tension and conflict in the region. So how about joint development of energy generation resources in the rest of the EAPP region? As I pointed out earlier, countries in the Great Lakes region manage to develop their shared energy generation resource and benefit it. And also they expect to benefit further from projects under development. So EAPP member countries have already embarked on a common planning platform where they opt for identification of regional generation and transmission projects of interest. In line with that, EAPP have developed regional master plans in year 2011 and 2014, and now have a plan to launch another one. In the regions, there are countries like DRC, Uganda, Tanzania, South Sudan, and Ethiopia, with significant hydro power potential and a number of big-size candidate hydro power projects identified for subsequent development. In most cases, one individual country may not have the market size that justify development of the most economic candidate projects in terms of levelized unit cost of generation. Development of this type of resource by a single country generally results to low utilization during the early years of commissioning, leading to losses to the economy. Such situation creates a difficulty to secure funding from development financing industry and normally leads to deferral of project implementation to the future until the country's demand justify its development. It's an economic loss both for the region as well as the country. This joint development could have assisted in bringing the needed economy of scale and development financing institutions to finance the project. The EAPP General Secretariat, with the support of its members, regional economic blocs, and international partners, aspire to create a situation in which it becomes a norm within our region that some of the common interest projects, either generation or transmission, identified through the regional master planning exercise, be developed jointly for the benefit of all. The rest of the LP region have a lesson to learn and build on the experience of the Great Lakes and the Cyclic region. However, one should also note the differences on the challenges of joint development generation projects in the Great Lakes, the Nile Lakes, and the Eastern Nile region of EAPP. As opposed to the Eastern Nile, countries of the Great Lakes region, by comparison, were at the same level when it comes to utilization of the Ruzizi and Kagera river basin resources, prior to the consideration to develop joint projects. As such, the idea of joint development of regional projects is to bear fruit in the whole EAPP region. It should take those sub-regional peculiarities into context and to address those peculiar challenges through constructive dialogue, only encourage unilateral action. Sustainable development of the hydro potential in the Nile Basin region requires appropriate consideration of multi-purpose engagement. The potential can be utilized for energy, water supply, and irrigation. The need for sustainable electricity service can be addressed with a combination of hydropower and other alternative generation resources like solar, wind, and geothermal within the region, guided by the regional power system master plan. Selection of the least cost generation development sequence is paramount to provide the basis for delivery of energy services at competitive prices down the line. However, this cannot be achieved without prior evaluation of hydro capabilities of the region within the least cost planning horizon, taking cognizance of the allocation of the water or energy used by water planners. There are also emerging challenges of climate variability and renewable energy intermittency or uncertainty. Most part of the region is characterized by low access rates, high demand growth, and even high water use stress. This all necessitates coordinated effort of energy and water planners. Such coordination shall also grow to development of an integrated decision-making tool, which can be used for prioritizing investments and operational management of facilities. The tool by itself needs to be transparent, easy to use by the different stakeholders for energy, and customizable based on the context of application and future needs. The EAPP believes that the future dam project avails significant opportunity to foster enhanced collaboration of energy and water planners in the region. Thank you very much for your attention. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Technical Director Gabriel. This was a wonderful talk. It gave us a good opportunity of the enormous opportunities that are available in East Africa in the interconnection and the cooperation between all the countries, both in water and energy planning and the joint water and energy planning. So thank you so much. We had a great introduction by two high-level speakers from the East African Power Pool. And now we can continue with the rest of our program. And we have some nice interventions by members and specialists from other power pools in Africa, including the South African and West African power pools. So that's a great a great opportunity. Let's see what the East African region perhaps can learn from them. So the first speaker we have is Alison Shikova from the South African Power Pool, and she will present now. 10 minutes. Thank you very much. Or he will, sorry.
Thank you very much and good morning to all. I've got a presentation to share. Can you confirm if you can see the presentation?
Yes, thank you. If you could go full screen.
Thank you very much. I'm going to talk about the overview of Southern African Power Pool and also the experiences in water and energy planning. Starting off maybe with a few facts about SAP, looking at the demand and supply situation, the SADC strategy on investments, talking of the water and energy nexus, the energy and water challenges. That is the focus of my presentation. The vision of SAP is to facilitate the development of a competitive electricity market within the Southern African Power Pool, and also to give the end user a choice of electricity supply and ensure that the Southern African region is the region of choice for investment for energy-intensive users, and ensure that sustainable energy development is through sound economic, environmental, and social practices. It's important to mention about the environment in this particular case. The way how the Southern African Power Pool was started is we are looking at the 12 countries of the Southern African region, south of the equator, where we have the countries highlighted in brown. South Africa, Lesotho, Botswana, and Namibia are predominantly coal generation countries, thermal-based. And the countries in the north, highlighted in blue, are mainly hydro-based systems. So this is quite a very, very interesting dynamic within the region that provides opportunities for great hydropower development in the region and also power trade across the countries. So the dynamics led to the interconnection between Zimbabwe and South Africa in 1995. Then also earlier in 1992, there was also an interconnection between Mozambique and Zimbabwe. Looking at the great hydro potential in Mozambique, Cabora Bassa site in Mozambique generates 2,075 megawatts on one site. And this is quite a great, huge opportunity. That's why you see that there is quite a big HVDC transmission line from Mozambique to South Africa, feeding the great hydropower resource and supplying power to South Africa. We also talk about the great DRC, which has got the Grand Inga hydropower project, which is a great resource, not only for the Southern African Power Pool, but also a great potential for other power pools to tap in, Eastern African Power Pool in particular, and also Western African Power Pool and Central African Power Pool. The Grand Inga is not only a project for one power pool, but for the greater African continent. In the SADC region, we're talking of 12 countries, 300 million people, available capacity 56 gigawatts, a peak demand of 57 gigs, annual consumption of 400 terawatt hours, and currently we are sitting in a deficit almost 1.8 gigawatts. And out of the 12 countries, 3 are not yet interconnected: Tanzania, Malawi, and Angola. And it is a great opportunity for the Southern African Power Pool to get Tanzania interconnected so that we can benefit from the synergies of the power pools being interconnected. In terms of the generation mix within the region, still the region is dominated by coal, giving us almost 62% of the generation pie, followed by hydro, almost 21%. But there's quite an interesting dynamic of renewable energy that is coming in: solar, wind, and solar CSP as well. You will see that wind is almost 4%, solar PV about 3%, and solar CSP almost 1%. And we also have the only nuclear power plant in South Africa contributing about 3%. So that's the dynamic as we see it at the moment. But in terms of energy planning going into the future, if we look at a window for 4 years into the future, we will see that the new generation projects are still coming in, still dominated by coal, but there's quite a big dynamic of hydro coming in. You will notice that on the chart, 26% of the new generation capacity is coming from large hydro. And there's also quite an interesting dynamic of the new renewable energy contribution coming from wind, 10%, and also from solar, 7%. In terms of the water and energy nexus, I think in order to have a water and energy secure region, joint investment on strategic water and energy projects is a must. Because, for example, the Grant Inga, which I have mentioned, it's a big potential, not only to contribute for the country's requirements, but to supply all the world regional energy mix for the continent. And there's a strong tendency of the sectors to work in silos, especially in the water, energy, and food sectors. Indeed, they are interdependent sectors. For example, you know that water is needed for generation of hydropower, cooling of thermal power stations, and as well as for irrigation and food production. And similarly, energy is required for pumping water where it is needed, including pressurizing water for irrigation systems. In terms of the SADC strategy and framework, we notice that there is a need to accelerate efforts in preparing bankable energy and infrastructure projects and to facilitate the implementation of priority infrastructure projects, particularly multi-purpose projects, as identified in the SADC Regional Infrastructure Development Master Plan in order to accelerate regional industrialization. There is quite a big need to improve operational efficiency in energy and water supply value chain in order to reduce the ultimate cost of delivery. And we are aware that the water and energy security nexus acknowledges that water and energy security are inextricably linked, and actions in any area usually have impacts on the other. So these are interdependent. What happens on the water sector would also affect what happens on the energy sector, especially in terms of the security. In terms of the planning framework going forward, climate services, water and energy systems have to be planned together, and also with a particular focus on the integration of renewable energy sources for waste management, treatment, and also for processing. I would like to underline renewable energy, because we are also focusing on hydro as a renewable source. And we know that climatic variations leading to energy and water systems are also interdependent. Water scarcity, variability, and uncertainty are becoming prevalent and potentially leading to vulnerabilities in the energy systems. And within the SADC region, there has been a big debate on the water and energy nexus situation in terms of how do we plan going forward. And the SADC region recommends to take a more integrated approach to address the challenges and opportunities of the water and energy nexus and the benefits that it presents. In terms of the implementations, what is lacking so far, what we have noticed that there is a lack of domestication of regional protocols and agreements. I have just picked a few out of a big basket of key issues that we have noticed to be weaknesses. We also noticed that there is low tariffs which discourage investments by independent power producers, inadequate project preparation in attractive packaging, absence of power off-taker which affects signing of power purchase agreements under the single buyer models. We also noticed inconsistent and at times delayed implementation of policies and regulatory frameworks within member states, which hand over investments and financing. We also noticed that there are changes of governments resulting in new governments taking over, and it delays most of the decisions that have been made and also the plans and priorities that have been identified. So we noticed those as some of the weaknesses. Unrealistic allocation of implementation timelines, in various project development cycles, particularly large projects, especially large hydro power projects. We also note delays in the procurement of consultants, goods, and other projects-related services, as well as capacitation of institutions to implement and eventually operate and manage the infrastructure. Delays experienced in commencing transporter projects in multiple sets of consultants to ensure that parties are advancing and at the same pace. Financing of projects is a major constraint, as we notice that especially large hydro projects are capital intensive, and we need quite robust financing mechanisms to be put in place. Safeguards, environmental safeguards issues have also been identified as being causes of delays in project commencement. And key actions that we have noted that we need to address within the Southern African Power Pool is to reduce energy and water consumption, at least to improve efficiency, rehabilitate and maintain water and energy infrastructure, reuse and recycle some of the water, develop new infrastructure with a focus mainly on hydropower, waive taxes on the importation of renewable energy sources as for water production and recycling, and remove some of the political interference and corruption in management of infrastructure projects that we notice in most of the countries in the region. And we have set a target within the SADC region of 53% renewable energy target, including large hydropower development by 2040. This is quite an ambitious target, and it is focusing on how the water and energy nexus can be improved going forward. But I would want to conclude by saying we need to convince governments that water and energy play a major role in national development of the economies and is one of the critical steps towards the development of sustainable infrastructure. So this is the experience that I want to share with you, coming from the developments that we have in the region, looking at the resources that we have abundant along the Zambezi River. A lot of hydropower projects have been developed, looking at the Congo Basin, looking at the developments that we have in Angola. These are opportunities of hydropower development that we can benefit from and learn how water and energy nexus can be improved going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Engineer Chikova. That's a very exciting talk. Hearing that by 2040, South Africa might have more than the half of its new generation from renewable sources is certainly inspiring and exciting. So thank you for that wide-ranging talk. So certainly a source of inspiration for East Africa. And also, I noted that some of the countries of the East African, South African power pools are overlapping. And so I'm imagining our grandchildren could be having this talk where there'll be a single African power pool. So all these things that point to a very exciting future. And let's hear now from West Africa for our second talk. We have the regional coordinator of the renewable section, Dr. Bruno of Wascal. We have Dr. Bruno Corgo. Thank you. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you very much for giving me the floor. And I would like to take opportunity to thank the organizers of this important event to discuss and the opportunity to discuss about this important subject of water energy nexus. I will have a few slides to share with you.
And feel free to also put your video on, Dr. Corgo, if you have one.
Is it okay?
Yes, we can see them. And if you could put them in full screen mode, that would be great. Wonderful.
Okay. I hope it's okay. You can see my screen now.
Yes, it's great. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I am pleased to share with you this presentation, this short presentation about the hydropower in West African Power Pool. I am Dr. Bruno Corgo. I am the Regional Thematic Coordinator for Renewable Energy at WASCAL. You know, WASCAL is West African Science Service Center for Climate Change and Adapted Land Use. WASCAL is working to improve knowledge, scientific, technical knowledge on climate change and is related in all the uses and related field, and also to improve livelihood and deliver climate services. Just to say 2 words about WASCAL, I'm not also speaking as an expert, an energy expert. I'm not presenting as coming from West African Power Pool. So my presentation plan is like shown in the screen. I will talk about water nexus energy and the hydropower importance in West African power plants. The introduction and conclusion will be missing because I was surprised by the time. It was early in the morning here that I was thinking that it was 10 in my hour. So talking about water energy nexus, I will just have to show some general views, some things that are generally known by all the experts. It's clear and it's well known that primary energy water intervenes as a key in energy sector in the fact in the extraction, primary energy production, like fossil sources, coal, petroleum, oil. In this process of production, water intervenes. Also, the most known is the electricity generation process. Water is key in the functioning of thermal plants, nuclear plants, solar and hydropower, that is clearly electricity generated from water. Just this figure is from IRENA, just to show you that how growing is the installed capacity of hydropower at the global level. It is from 2010 to 2020. It has grown from about 900,000 megawatt to more than 100,000 of megawatts. That is about 1,100 gigawatts. So it's to show how important is the generation provided from hydro sources in the global energy supply system. It's also clear that energy intervenes in water sector. This slide shows a figure from International Energy Agency that clearly shows how energy is important in the supply, distribution, desalination, reuse, wastewater treatment, and transfer of water. All these all this application of water resources clearly needs energy to be well done and efficient. The question is now, how can we efficiently use water for energy? And how can we efficiently use energy for water? That is the question that with a double sense to which we have to make effort to answer. Now, I will now talk about the West African Power Pool. Just quickly to show show you, like shown in this slide, that West African is a specialized agency of ECOWAS established in 2006. That covers 14 countries on the 15 countries of ECOWAS. And it was created like the other power pools. It was created to integrate national power systems into a unified regional electricity market. I think this is the main objective of all the power pools, regional power pools in Africa. So this, and in this objective, West African power pool has to develop and promote infrastructure for power generation and transmission, and to ensure the coordination of electric power exchange between ECOWAS countries. It has a mission of promotion of development of infrastructure. In this objective, West African, power pool has developed a master plan that is composed by transmission lines, as you can see in the screen. In blue, you can see the existing transmission lines, and in red, the continuous line are the existing transmission line, and the broken lines are projects that are in development, ongoing project for connecting totally all the West African countries. So you can see that there are 2025 kilovolt existing line in blue, and also 330 kilovolt transmission lines represented in red. You can see that there is an important network that is existing, but the objective is to share to have a unique network and have to share all the generation capacity of all the country according to the most advantageous resources that they have. In this sense, the West African Power Pool generation project is projected to have this energy mix shown in this figure. You can clearly see that the majority is of this mix in 2022, projected in 2022. More than 50% is made of gas, natural gas, followed by hydro power at a level of 23%. We have also PV solar plants that are in development, but you can clearly see the role that is playing hydro, giving its technical advantages compared with the variable renewables. In medium time, you can see from 2023 to 2029, you can see how has become the share of hydro power in the projected electricity mix of West African Power Pool. It's clearly seen that hydro will have taken almost more than 80% of the projected mix of the region. And the exploitation, according to the master plan, this sentence comes from the master plans. The exploitation of regional hydropower potential is a priority for West Africa, giving the cost advantage, giving the technological advantage, and giving the potential that exists across the region, especially in some specific countries like Guinea. That is the most important resource, water resource of the region, followed by Nigeria and Sierra Leone. There are also projects in Cote d'Ivoire and in Togo. And these projects have a total of over 5,000 megawatts to be put in service between 2023 and 2029. This is among the decided project. As you can see, it's decided project. It means projects that have already been discussed with states and decided to be developed. In this table, I don't know if you can clearly see by looking at the size, but you can clearly see that most of the projects are coming from Guinea, Sierra Leone, and also a few ones from Cote d'Ivoire and Togo, for a total of 5,357. You can see it, yes, at the bottom of the table. Okay. To see the role of this hydropower in the economic dispatch, you can clearly see how it's marked in blue. How is the hydropower adjusting the consumption of the consumption and distribution of solar power, solar PV power that is clearly available daytime. And you can see in the night how the hydropower has this flexibility to adjust and fill and to meet the demand of electricity. So this is one of the technical advantage that can be shown by developing the hydro power in West Africa. This slide is just to show how is the distribution of the energy during daytime and during night in West Africa, according to the potential that have each country. You can clearly see that countries in the Sahel, in the north parts of West Africa, like Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, with a high solar potential, are clearly willing to develop solar projects. Also, you can see at the east, at the west of the region, Guinea, where it's clearly shown the hydropower resources, the hydropower potential there. So at your left, you see how it's distributed the energy during, for example, at 12 during daytime. Solar production from the north comes to the south during daytime when there is sun, giving the low according to a least cost option. That is to meet the least cost objective. And at night, you can clearly see at the right of the screen that there is also hydropower is also existing in the two cases. But in the night, you would have the gas, the fossil sources that is contributing in the regional mix to meet the least cost objective of West African powerful generation system. So that is clearly to show that renewable energy is one of the key objectives of West African power pool to have the least cost production and give and provide large access of energy to populations and affordable access to energy to population, and also to meet the regional goals of more than 39% of renewables by 2033. So thank you for following this short presentation with sometimes a bad level of English. You can understand that I am Francophone, and I am available if there are any other questions or discussions. So thank you. Back to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Corgo. Merci beaucoup. That was a wonderful talk, and we see that you have a rooster who's just waking up there in the background, who's excited to participate in the talk as well. So thank you. Fascinating to see the developments in West Africa. I think almost 40% by 2030. That's also an exciting amount of renewables. So definitely a lot of opportunities. Let's go back now to East Africa with Engineer Haitham Hashim from the East African Power Pool. You have 10 minutes. Thank you.
Let me share my screen. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, if you could just make it full screen.
It's already full. Let me try again.
There we go. Wonderful. Thank you.
Hey, I think we're viewing your second display, and that is what Julian means. There is an option to switch between your displays. I'm sure you're using two monitors, so if you click on the display settings, you could switch on the top of your slide. There is an option, display settings.
Yeah.
In the option on the right of that button.
The next menu. The next menu.
Yes, that one. Yeah, if you click on that display settings.
Yeah, display settings.
Click, not right click. Left
not right
click.
Not right click. I mean, you.
Okay.
Yeah, there. Yeah. Swap, that one. Swap presenter view.
Okay.
Oh, the first option, the first one.
The first one. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
We clear now?
No.
Sorry.
Yeah, if you go again to display settings.
Display settings and select the first option.
Okay, now.
Display settings.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. This presentation is about the new opportunities and challenges for the water energy synergies in the EAPP region. In this presentation, I will maybe show you an existing interconnections within the region and the installed capacity for hydro generation in each country. And also, I will try to show the energy capabilities for the hydro within the region, and then I will talk about the opportunities and challenges for the energy, water energy synergies, and eventually I will talk about decision-making landscape. From this drawing, we can see the current interconnection we have within the region. Currently, we have Egypt and Libya. They are connected. Egypt, Sudan, Ethiopia, and Ethiopia, Djibouti. All these 5 countries that are connected together, they are in one synchronous area. On the part, the south part of the region, we have Kenya, Uganda. They are connected, and also we have Ruzizi power plant, which is it's connecting 3 countries, DRC and Rwanda and Burundi. They are sharing the power from this port.
Okay, now I'm wondering if that's just me or has Haitham stopped?
Yes, Julian, stopped. Froze, yeah.
Okay, well, let's give him a few more seconds to see if he can come back, or else we can maybe try the next speaker, which will be Aloyse Odur from NELSAP. Let's give him a few more seconds, see if he comes back on. Okay, looks like he was disconnected, I believe. So do we have Engineer Aloyse Odur from NELSAP?
Yes, yes, I'm online.
Sorry, I'm back.
Oh, here's.
Yes.
Hi, Haitham. Looks like we had a short interruption from you there. Can
Yes,
you get
yes,
your
I'm
slides back on?
Yes, now I'm back. Can you hear me now? Can you see my slide?
Yeah, we can hear. We can hear and see
Sorry
your
for
slides.
this
Perfect.
interruption. Okay, to continue, currently within EAPP region, the exchange energy, our record for 2020 is 2,161 gigawatt hour. This is for the existing interconnected country. Here is this slide. I will try to give an idea about the installed capacity in each country. We have the total installed capacity for the mixed generation in each country, this part, and here the percentage for the hydro in each country. And from this table, we noticed Ethiopia and DRC, they have a very high percentage inside the countries. And to some extent, also Burundi, they have 62%. But also Uganda, we have very high percentage, 84.6%. This is for 2020. And the other countries, Tanzania, Sudan, and Rwanda, and Kenya, the percentage of the hydro is less than 50%. But for Libya, there is no any hydro installed capacity, is 100% thermal, Libya. For 2030, what will be expected as a plan based on our power balance 2020, which is issued 2020. Maybe the situation will for Ethiopia is still high, and also DRC 100%. Now Rwanda from 62% inside the country, it will be 100% hydro in the country. And we have also Uganda, the percentage of installed capacity for hydro to approximate 90%. But for the other countries like Tanzania and Sudan, it's almost less than 50%, and Rwanda as well. Kenya is very low, 14%. Libya also the same status will continue up to 2030. There is no hydro, is 100% thermal generation. For the regional energy, hydro energy capabilities for 2020, the total energy within the region in 2020 is 68,206 gigawatt hour. And we have Ethiopia is almost 30%. If you noticed from the shape here, is a 20, almost 30%, 29.8. And we have DRC and Egypt, almost they are the same, 18.9 and 18.7 percentage. And also we have Sudan is 14%, Uganda 9%, Tanzania and Rwanda, and also Kenya, the percentage is very low. And this is for 2020. Let us see for 2030. For 2030, the total EAPP regional hydro energy capability will increase by almost more than 2 times or 2.3 times almost. Still, Ethiopia is taking the big portion of the percentage is 32%, and now we have DRC. The percentage is increasing from 18 to 22, and also we have Sudan and Uganda. The percentage is increasing, but for Egypt, the percentage is decreased. Previously, it was 18. Now, the significant decrease is almost now it's 6.2 percentage. Let us now talk about opportunities from water and energy, the water and energy synergies in the region. Maybe based on the previous slides, we can say that we have a good opportunity or large hydro resources with a good reservoir capacity. This is a good opportunity for the region to have this large amount of hydro capacity. And also, there is an opportunity to make an integration between the renewable and the hydro. The reservoir surface can be utilized for floating solar panels, and this one also, because it will reduce too much the evaporation, because when we utilize the surface for the solar panels, that one will make shadow, which will decrease the temperature, and also it will decrease the hot wind, which will is considered as a part of the evaporation process. Also, it will maybe address the problem of scarcity of land, and this will be a good integration between the solar panels and the solar PV and the hydro generation. Also, it can maybe serve as a battery storage, facilitating for large integration of the cheap intermittent renewable. You know the nature of the renewable generation. We can consider it as a self-dispatch generation, because sometimes maybe the radiation of the energy of the solar will be variated for a long time, and also the wind speed for the wind turbine will change from time to time. That's why we can use the reservoir as the battery storage. Also, we can design the hydro power plant to maybe to have a pump storage. Also, it can serve very well as a battery for the renewable. This water can be pumped back to the upstream reservoir during the light load period with the power of the renewable. This is like an integration opportunity of having integration between the renewable and the hydro generation. The challenge we have for the water energy synergies is the implication of the climate change. A lot of changing of temperature, which will affect the efficiency of the thermal power plant, and also it can affect our plants because there will be also a shifting for the dry season and the wet season, the shifting of participation patterns will affect too much our plants, and this considered as a very big challenging, and also increasing climate variability. This will affect our maybe water and energy synergies, and also more frequent extreme weather event can alter the availability and the predictability of the water, and disrupt energy production and distribution. This challenge of climate change is very important. We need to consider that in even our master plan, which we are planning to do it maybe during the update of the master plan, actually, very soon, within this year. And will by considering this climate change issues, this will definitely will let us avoid a lot of problems in the future. Now, about the decision-making landscape, actually, there is an opportunity to make harmonization of policies between the energy and the water spheres, and synergistic approach to energy and water challenges can stimulate the development and deployment of solutions that address objectives in both domains. Also, we can learn from promising models of integrated water energy decision-making and various scales domestically and internationally. That is all from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Haitham. That's a wonderful talk, and it's been great collaborating with you on Future Dams and the Future Dams project. Great to hear from a technical talk there from the East African Power Pool. Let's go straight away to our next speaker, Aloisi Odur from NBI NELSAP. You have 10 minutes, please.
So good morning to all. I believe you can see my screen as I've already started sharing.
Perfect.
Okay, thanks to all the presenters who have done their presentation before myself, because I can see there's a perfect match that goes with the rhythm of this meeting. That is the nexus between water and energy. And I believe mine is also going to follow the same suit. I also thank the planners of this webinar. I'm called Alois Odur. I'm going to present on behalf of NELSAP. So these are the topic is basically the achievements so far attained from NELSAP end, and also the challenges facing the financing related to the regional power projects within the Nile Equatorial region. The outline is going to be the way it is. That is the NELSAP background, key achievements, and then the challenges of financing and implementing the regional power projects from the Nile region perspective. So this is just the basic definition of NELSAP. Yes, which has got it's an investment arm of the National Nile Basin Initiative. And it has basically two sub-programs. That is the power development and trade, and also the water resources management and development as a sub-program. So from the onset, we can just see the nexus between water and energy. NELSAP was created in the 1999. So under the water resources management and development, we have got, it deals with agricultural productivity, water for irrigation, river basin management, planning and development, watershed management, large-scale fishing, food and drought control, navigation for trade and tourism promotion, and wetland conservation. While under the power development and trade, we have the hydropower investment projects and the regional power transmission interconnections. I'm going to concentrate only on the power development and trade because that is what my presentation I was asked to do. We engage and we work together with a number of development partners, including the World Bank, the European Union, the Bank of Germany, the JICA, SIDA, the GIZ, Norwegians, African Development Bank, and the USAID. So the project so far that NELSAP has done to bankability involves the interconnection of electric grids of the Nile Equatorial Lakes countries. This one has Burundi, DRC, Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda. A number of the components of these projects have been actually done, and some have been commissioned so far. So this slide is just about the projects that we have prepared up to the bankability level. Number 2 is the Kenya-Tanzania Power Interconnection Project, which was financed by the Royal Norwegian government. Its preparation, that is, this link is linking the Southern African Power Pool and the Eastern African Power Pool, as we had seen also in the presentations that came before. So we also have done under NELSAP the Uganda DRC interconnection transmission line study. This was concluded in the year 2013, and it was supported by the Royal Norwegian government. So again, so far the projects that are again ongoing is the Iringa-Mbeya transmission line. This was studied by NELSAP, and so far it reached bankability, and actually implementation has gone on. The Tanzania-Zambia power interconnection is now ongoing, as I have said. And we have also said here that the supplementary studies of the interconnection of electric grids, when the projects were started earlier on, there were certain parameters that were not considered, and at the same time, certain scenarios changed. So we did some supplementary study to see how the combined integrated network will operate under the framework of the Eastern African Power Pool, together with the issue of the power trading. So this one was supported by the European Union, and it was actually concluded. So this is the picture that is showing the ZTK, the Zambia-Tanzania-Kenya interconnection, how it links the Eastern African Power Pool and the Southern African Power Pool, right from Zambia up to the Tanzania as it enters Kenya. So the projects that we have under preparation right now is Uganda DRC interconnection. I said it was concluded in 2013, but when financiers expressed interest for its implementation, that is the African Development Bank and the French Development Agency, it was found that a lot of time has gone and has actually elapsed. Therefore, there is need for this line to be updated studies. So the African Development Bank through the NEPAD IPPF is also financing additional, updating of this study. And we envisage that by June this year, we will start and finish it next year. The financing agreement has already been signed, and we are proceeding with the procurement of the consultancy firm that will update the feasibility studies, prepare the tender documents, and also do the detailed design together with Asia and RAP. Another important one, we had also seen related to earlier presentations, is the Nimule Juba. This is within South Sudan. And it is the main highway that finally connects with Uganda, right from Karuma Hydropower Station through Luio in Uganda, and goes to the border called Nimule with South Sudan, and then proceeds to Juba at 400 kV. The project is being supported by African Development Bank, 1.5 million USD. We envisage that we will start this in September this year. By August next year, the project will have been completed. I mean, the study will have been completed, and then it can get into implementation phase. Projects already under implementation, again, these are two already under implementation with the supervision and implementation under NESA. The interconnection of electric grids of the Nile Equatorial Lakes countries, the countries that I have mentioned. The source of the funding was a number. Well, it was a blend from a number of financiers, the African Development Bank, JICA, KfW, and also the government of the Royal Netherlands, at a total of 414.3 million equivalent USDs. So the regional Rusumo hydropower project, as had already been also said earlier, I think by the technical director at EAPP, who gave a very good and elaborate summary on it. It is being implemented by NELSAP for on behalf of Rwanda, Burundi, and Tanzania. It is funded fully by the World Bank at 340 million. Tanzania has got a full loan on it, that is 100% credit, while Burundi has got 100% grant. Rwanda has got 50% grant and 50% credit. These are being done under NELSAP. The first one, interconnection, part of it has been completed. Right now, we are working again with the EAPP and the USAID on finally commissioning that link between Uganda and Rwanda. When this one is commissioned, and the immediate formal presentation by the operations director from EAPP, you saw that Uganda and Rwanda is still not linked. This one, we are working on it, and maybe hopefully this year it will be commissioned, and it will bring the lower countries, that is Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, and the eastern part of DRC into one synchronous frequency. Almost the way we saw for the northern part that has got Libya, Sudan, and others. So this is the overview of how the Rusumo is at the border, the river Ruvubu, Nyabarongo connecting to form River Kagera, and at that confluence, that is where the HPP is, 80 megawatt power plant, and we envisage that by the end of this year, at least one unit will be on the Rusumo hydropower plant, shared between the Rwanda, Burundi, and Tanzania. The HPP plant is in the territory of Tanzania, while the switchyard for evacuation of the energy is in the territory of Rwanda as it crosses the river Kagera. That is the switchyard, which is in the territory of Rwanda. So I want to get quite fast into the challenges so far that we are experiencing in getting financing and implementing regional projects. One is the lack of political compliance in the eye of development partners. You find some development partners or financiers feel that some countries are not doing enough and cannot be able are not worthy, if I can use that word, to benefit from financing from their end, while some are able. So if it is a transboundary project, you find that one partner country is rated well in terms of compliance, and the other is not. So trying to engage further on this is normally quite a challenge. There's also the aspect of low rating of creditworthiness for sector-specific projects. One country may have a window that they can get financing from the African Development Bank, for example, in energy, while the country that they should link with through that transmission line, or they should share this hydropower project with, is not in that right rating. The country itself, the treasury in that country is saying that, no, we do not want financing from this financier for energy project, maybe for schools or hospital, while the other member country is ready and has that kind of credit for that. So that that kind of disharmony is sometimes quite difficult to process a challenge in securing financing. Then the asymmetry in project prioritization between countries sharing a project. Countries have their master plans through the Ministry of Energy or the ministry concerned with energy. So you find that there is a very, very good resource that needs to be shared, or some interconnector or transmission line need to be constructed. Unfortunately, it happens not to be in the priority list or master plan at that time for one country, while it's already in another country. So financiers cannot come in when there is this kind of asymmetry. Then unharmonized policy and regulatory frameworks between the participating countries. We have, like in the energy sector, the frameworks are, or regulatory frameworks are not yet harmonized, and it is also sometimes a condition precedent to receiving financing from certain partners. So we are still not harmonized in terms of the policy and regulatory frameworks, which actually impacts negatively in financing. We have very, very different procurement procedures in the countries, different countries. So this one comes now during the implementation of a project. If the procurement procedures were at least harmonized or at least the same, you find that it would be very, very easy for implementation. Otherwise, we find that at a particular time, a country is following this procurement procedure, another one is on another procurement procedure, and they are not harmonized. So a project is going on between the countries, but they are harmonized, not harmonized, such that during commissioning is when other things now come, that there is no compatibility, such kind of things. Designs were a little bit different. So this one impacts negatively also on the implementation of the regional or cross-border power projects. We have different financing, of course, different financing conditions between development partners. This one, particularly projects that are to be co-financed, by different partners, I mean financiers. It is tricky sometimes because the conditions of maybe the World Bank may differ from the condition of JICA, different from the condition of the German bank, things like that. So harmonizing this also, it's also some task. So there's also difference in land policies and environmental and social safeguards between partners. I think one presenter also had talked about safeguards issue, which is normally a very, very big thing as project implementation is ongoing on. And actually, it also affects financing of projects. We have seen, like in East Africa, particularly Kenya, Uganda, and some other countries, the issue of land, the land policy, and the issue of land, how it's acquired, way leaves, those kind of things, they really affect project implementation. It is not as stringent in some countries. So if you are having a cross-boundary kind of project, one country may make that international project lag behind because of these disharmonized policies. So I just want to wrap up by saying that interconnection of the electric grids and creation of power pools would enhance the water and energy nexus, with the results of bringing about effective, reliable, and cost-reflective and secure supply of energy, but above all, it's a driver for regional integration. So thank you all for this, for listening to me and the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Odur. Thanks very much. Why don't we go quickly to our last technical speaker, Johannes Gebrsehadik from NBI. He'll give a talk relating to a system in Uganda. We look forward to it. And then if you could try to stick to 10 minutes, Johannes, because then we have the panel discussion. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Julian. Let me just quickly share my slides. Okay, is it good? All right, thank you again, Julian. My name is Johannes Gebrsehadik. Again, good morning, everyone. In this presentation, I'll be talking about the integrated operation of particularly wind and solar with the hydropower and why it's important for the Nile Basin without getting in detailed technical depth. So I think the first one is to answer the question why even bother in the Nile Basin for wind and solar. So let me take your attention to the image on the left here. This chart shows breakdown of renewable energy in the energy mix. Now, starting from the beginning of the century, from 2000, there has been an increased level of wind and solar, getting higher proportion in the energy mix. And yes, hydropower is still a majority of percentage in the energy mix and has been showing a steady increase in the past few decades. However, for wind and solar, what we are observing, the trend is an exponential growth in the past decades. And what's more interesting is to look at some of the projections some studies are making. This is a projection from ARENA, for example. Now we're here in 2060, and this is, of course, an optimistic projection that that says 80%, 86% of mix by 2050. Renewables accounting over the total energy generation. And you can see that by 2050, we can have almost more than half of the energy supplied from solar and wind and fossil fuels declining significantly. Also, we look at another trend, and this is another estimate or another projection that shows historical trend and projection scenario, which is a relatively moderate scenario, showing a 50% in the energy mix in the future. Again, we see that there is a possibility in the future that wind and solar will account the major proportion of the energy mix in most developed countries and also to developing countries as well. So the message I'm trying to make here is wind and solar are not major in the Nile Basin at the moment, but the rest of engaged actively with replacing existing as well as additional energy generation means by a more clean and environmentally friendly energy should all just because of this global trend really, but because they don't have much options, which means Nile Basin can from the Nile as for if they are looking to meet their energy development goals, they should diversify and look into alternative source, mainly tap into wind and solar. The good news is that there is a potential in the region, and the technology is getting more affordable and more efficient and each day. So to look at some of the potentials in the region, you can see that particularly for solar PVs, there is a significant potential in the Nile Basin, in the Sudan, in upper part, in the majority part of Sudan. There is also some potential for concentrated solar panels. We also have some major potential for wind, mainly in Kenya and Egypt and Sudan as well. So this is a good opportunity, but there's a major challenge with these renewable energy resources, as pointed out by previous speakers. I think the main ones are these renewable resources are inherently intermittent, and these are non-dispatchable energy sources. So it's pretty much whenever the wind blows and the sun shines, there is energy available, and we use whatever we can. And as you may know, the value of energy generated not only depends on the magnitude, but reliability is also an important parameter when you're selling power. So in short, wind energy is not physically reliable because it's not consistent or dispatchable. Mostly intermittent power sources such as wind and solar have to be supplemented by other form of energy. This is a typical generation pattern from a wind with 20,000 installed megawatt of power. You can see that there is a significant amount of variability, even in hourly time step. You can see that there is a maximum going, and within a matter of hours or days going down to zero. So if you plot that and try and see the reliability, even though the installed capacity is really high, around 20,000, the usable portion of this energy is really low. If we look at the 90s percentile, for example, it's close to probably 1,000 or 2,000 megawatt hours. And if we compare that with the total installed capacity, only a fraction of this is available for use, indicating a low penetration rate. And this is the major challenge with wind and solar. Their level of intermittency makes them difficult to manage, but there is a solution to this. So one of the solutions is have a battery, a huge battery, which can be used to save power when the wind blows and when the sun shines, and when those resources not available, use the energy from that battery. And when I say battery, I'm not talking about these traditional car batteries or electronics batteries, but there are alternative ways of storing energy as well. So and scientists have been trying to come up with interesting ways of saving energy or storing energy. Of course, there are different traditional ways of storing energy, but I have picked two peculiar examples to show you how far people are really going in order to find ways to store energy. For example, this one here on the left is a mechanism that converts electrical energy to a potential energy. So we have our intermittent power source driving some source of motor, and this motor changes this electrical energy to potential energy, and later when the wind is not available, this energy will be feeding back to the system. Of course, the efficiency will be really low, and the practicality is questionable, especially on the large scale. And we also have these pushing what appears like a cart up the hill whenever there is energy, and letting that go to recover back the stored energy. Of course, these are not practical. I'm just merely trying to indicate the level that people are going. And the good news is that we don't have to do this in the Nile Basin. We already have huge batteries. which are our storage facilities, the dams and the reservoirs. So we could use them as batteries. So this is what I will be talking about in my following slides. So let me talk about this project that I've been involved in that looks into this coordinated operation to use storage facility as battery. So the integrated operation between the hydropower facilities in Zambezi and the wind and solar potential in South Africa. Jacob has talked about this earlier on how the upper Zambezi Basin countries are predominantly hydropower driven, and there are two major storage facilities, Kariba Dam and Kohorbaza, with combined storage capacity more than 200 billion cubic meter. And we have South Africa, and the primary energy source is coal. However, there is a huge potential both onshore and offshore for wind farms. The total capacity, there are different estimates, but it's huge, around 40 gigawatt hour for solar panel and 30 gigawatt hour for CSP, and around 27,000 megawatt for wind. So this is really a huge capacity or potential, but it comes with the challenge of that intermittency that I talked about earlier. So the goal of this project was to try and see if a coordinated operation of these renewable resources from South Africa can be relatively made better through using the storage facilities in Zambezi, Kariba, and Kohorbaza as storage facilities. So we set up our models, water and energy combination, and run them for different scenarios of wind and hydropower development. And we've got some interesting results that came out of that project. If you see here the red and the blue lines, the red line is the original wind resource as it comes from the source, and the blue line is an improved output as a result of this coordinated operation. So if you look at the duration, for example, I've shown earlier this line that has really low reliability. And if we compare the two with and without the coordinated operation, we can see that we have now achieved significant improvement in the reliability of the resource. What was earlier around 1,500 is now close to 5,000 megawatt hour made usable just through the coordinated operation without requiring much physical investment, which was really interesting. But there are also other benefits that we managed to observe from this coordinated operation for South Africa. For example, we noticed that there is a less load following requirement for coal power plants. Coal power plants are by nature, they're rigid, they're not that dispatchable. It's not relatively easy to run them up and down, and there is some criteria some constraint in order to be able to do that. So it's really expensive to follow a load. But what we see with this coordinated operation is there is less requirement for the core power plants in South Africa to do this heavy burden of load following. As you can see here, what used to be the blue line with higher variability magnitude is now relatively flattened. This indicating a better life for the facility and also efficient resource consumption, which means this coal generating plant will be requiring less coal for the same amount of energy generation. So we're looking at multi-dimensional benefit. And also, what about for Zambezi? And there's also a benefit for Zambezi. We observe a higher reliability of meeting power target, which means minimize deficit, or the countries are now able to hit their energy generation target with less deficit. And also not only for the hydropower, really, we also observed improved reliability for the irrigation facilities as well as a result of this combined operation, making the system overall more resilient and more regulated. So some concluding remarks. We have huge opportunity in the Nile Basin regarding these renewable resources, both resource potential as well as these battery facilities, such as the highest one dam and the Egyptian brand Renaissance Dam coming into the system soon. So there is a huge potential both for the source as well as for the battery. But the most important question here is this coordinated operation requires really a high level of cooperation between the countries. So there is a need for strong regional cooperation, not only on operation, but during planning and operation to achieve this goal and to benefit from the synergy of coordinated operation. And the other thing is these integrated operations should also be considered as early as possible, because optimization of design can be carried out earlier in such a way as later on we can make optimum use of this operation of the coordinated systems. So I'll leave you with a question in the Nile Basin. Can we achieve this level of cooperation required in the Nile Basin in order to make use of this huge wind and solar potential that we will be certainly engaging in the future? Thank you very much. With that, I come to the end of my presentation. Back to you, Julian.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Johannes. Let me just share the program again here. Great. Well, we heard some great talks, and I think we're going to take your question about the possibilities of collaboration and what that could enable. And let's use that as a theme. So we've learned a lot, but we've also spoken a bit more than what we had hoped for. So we have a bit less time for the panel discussion. What I propose to do, since Aloisio Dur has already been able to speak, why don't we have a large panel? Let's just reduce the panel by one, if you don't mind, Aloisio, because you've already been able to speak. And let's quickly just start with a 1-minute statement by the 4 panelists, Zalalem, Abdul Karim, Michael, and Mateos. If you could just give your big picture impressions and what struck you the most by the talk so far, and then we start with those initial statements. So please, just 1 minute each. Can we start with Dr. Gebri from EAPP? Okay, maybe not everyone was ready for that. So while we wait for Dr. Gebri Hewitt from EAPP, we'll start then with Dr. Abdul Karim Said from IMI.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Haru. I think the question is kind of a surprise question, but really very interesting presentations. And I was, well, on one side, the huge potential and what I've seen from EAPP by Haitham, how, for example, the hydro potential, like the regionally significant energy proportion is increasing by 2050, or I think by 2030 or 2050. That shows you huge potential on one side. At the same time, you know, if you're talking about the regional potential, then it also means cross-border power trade as well. So, but the picture on the cross-border power trade infrastructure is not yet, you know, fully, you know, countries are not fully connected or interconnected. I know there's a lot of work going on by NERSAP, but also EAPP is working on that. So I think what really struck me is there is a lot of potential, regionally significant, and for this reason, I think the reason for, there's a very good evidence or case for cooperation between countries in power trade. Having said that, actually, I just like to add the dimension of food when you talk about Nexus, because water connects with food systems. And then at the same time, many of the dams in the hydropower dams in the, at least in the Eastern Nile region, they also are actually irrigation dams, basically, because they provide primarily water for food. And there's also a connection with what's happening at the landscape level, because livelihood in the landscape upstream catchments is very closely related with the water. So I think we need to also keep in mind, when we talk about nexus between energy and water systems, we need to also bring in the food dimension into it. Thank you. Maybe I will say more about that later, but you gave me only 1 minute. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Said. Great. So let's we'll get to Technical Director Gibri Hewitt afterwards. Let's go next to Michael Abibi.
Thank you, Professor Jill, and also I appreciate the presenters. They have already highlighted the key issues in the basin as well as also the resources. It was mentioned that there are a lot of energy resources in the basin, but one of the challenges was harmonization of policies across sectors and also countries. That is a challenge for the countries. And it was mentioned about the complementarity and diversification of energy resources with other renewable resources. But one thing which I can mention is that missing part is that there is also a possibility of complementarity between hydro to hydro. That has to be also assessed in the basin. For example, the main rain season in Equatorial Lakes region is from March to May, while the reservoirs in the Eastern Nile are at lowest level. Similarly, the main rainy seasons in the Eastern Nile countries is from July to September, where the reservoir level is in the Equatorial Lakes region starts draw down. So there is a possibility of assessing a complementarity between these hydropower plants in the two sub-basins. The other thing is that I see the critical gap between the linkage between the research institutes also with the river basin organizations. How can we address these gaps in futures? The third one, which I would like to highlight, is it was not mentioned about the land degradation problems in the Nile basin countries, because this land degradation leads to the reservoir sedimentations and ultimately affect the generation capacity of dams. So we need to also consider about the sedimentation problems in the reservoirs. So I suggest that there has to be some platforms or frameworks which could be initiated by the NILESIC to bring this all different sectors and organizations to discuss and produce a policy document for decision makers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Michael. Let's now have a 1-minute reaction from Mateusz Pantelli, who's one of the co-investigators on future dams. Mateusz?
Hey, Julian, and thank you very much to everybody for the very stimulating and interesting discussions. I just want to echo what the previous speaker said, that yes, hydropower has great potential at the national as well as regional level. Of course, the regional coordination, as we see from Europe, it has its own challenges as well as opportunities, though. I want to stress the importance of, yes, relying on hydropower as a dispatchable and controllable renewable source. But as Michael said, to basically diversify the generation portfolio by including more renewables and more distributed energy resources in the system, both at the national and regional level, which will enable a much more flexibility of regional systems to deal with extremes and to deal with any shortage of fuel in multi-resource systems. And this can be offered by these Nexus approaches we're discussing now, in order to tackle basically big challenges in such systems. And potentially one of the biggest will be climate change, which, as Dr. Keita mentioned from EAPP, it can affect both the hydro availability as well as the resilience, the availability of big thermal conventional power plants, affecting, for example, their cooling efficiency due to lack of water or increasing temperatures and so on. And also help tackle the balance and the trade-offs of the water usage between different sectors. I will stop here, Julian, just for the sake of time, and then we can take it further later.
Okay, thank you so much, Mateusz. Do we have Technical Director Gibri Hewitt? Are you available there, Director? Okay, that's fine. So what I propose to do is that Abdul Karim, Michael, and Mateos have brought up some key themes of food, how the connection to the food system, the ability to optimize and coordinate the dams between themselves. So not just with other sectors, but also within the sector. And then Mateos just talked about the idea of climate change and the issues with interconnections and some of the challenges. We've also had a nice technical in the Q&A. I read a nice question from my friend from Kenya, Boniface Moniki, who was saying he was surprised that in West Africa there was so much increase in hydropower. He was saying that in East Africa, for example, in Kenya, the people are worried about sedimentation and about water scarcity, and therefore the hydropower development is not growing as quickly. So I think there's quite a few themes there. So what I want to do now is, just like we went through 1 minute with each panel member, let's go through the presenters one by one. You have 1 minute because we're already a few minutes, 1 or 2 minutes over the end of our session. If each of the speakers, Alison, Bruno, Hytham, Aloisi, and Johannes, if you could pick one of those themes and just give us a 1 minute reaction, you could, right? You can pick the theme in the question of interest, but you have 1 minute. Okay, so let's start with Alison Shikova from South African Power Pool.
I think renewable energy integration should be considered together with the hydropower developments. It's something that needs to be done in a coordinated approach. I would also like to use this opportunity to then answer the question that was asked about the renewable energy target for SAP, which I mentioned of 53% renewable energy. I would like to highlight that looking at the baseline of where we started, we are increasing the demand by 2 times into 2040. But the hydropower in the renewable energy generation is increasing by 2.5 times. So that shows that there's quite a great increase in terms of the potential. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful, Engineer Shikova. Beautiful. Bruno, can you give us a 1 minute reaction to just pick a question, pick your favorite question?
Yes, thank you. I think the question of Boniface is the only one that concerned me. He was talking about the growth, the increasing of the hydropower production relatively to the situation in Kenya where it's decreasing. Yes, I'm talking about a global trend. You know, at a national level, the contribution in a pool, in a regional pool, is made under the price competitive criteria. A country cannot contribute with a high cost of production systems in a pool. So the trends that I was giving, the increasing that I raised, was related to a regional mix. For example, if we consider in our region in West Africa, countries like Burkina Faso, like Niger, like Mali, has a very weak, very small hydro potential, but they can contribute in the regional mix with solar energy. But countries like Guinea has a huge potential that can be used to give electricity to almost all the West African region. In these countries, it's normal that the hydropower be increased and to contribute significantly in the regional mix. That's what I can say. The trends I was giving is global and regional, not specifically related to one country, in which there are a lot of challenge when it comes to identify the least cost option of electricity production. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Bruno. Hytham.
Thank you so much. Just for South Sudan, the question is about, is it a member of EAPP? And it has a currently interconnection. What I can say here now, South Sudan is even inside the country, they don't have a grid. They are just a small. They have a small distribution grid. It's just a generation distribution grid. There is no transmission line, and the interconnection which exists from Sudan through rank substation is just supplying a distribution load through 33 kilovolt level, and this is almost like 1 or 2 megawatt. In addition to South Sudan, we have also maybe actually South Sudan. It is a potential member. We are expecting for them to join EAPP, and also we have there is additional another countries like Eritrea and Somalia. They are maybe near future they will be a member of EAPP, and the good things that in our EAPP region we have the mix of the generation. We have some countries they have very high potential of hydro, and also other countries they have who are very high potential of renewable. This can make sense on integration between the hydro and the renewable generation in our region. Thank you so much.
Okay, wonderful, Haitham. Aloisi Odur.
Yes, thank you. I read from the chat a question relating to the solutions that could assist us block those challenges that we face in implementation and financial receiving financial assistance from the development partners. So I think there are so many ways, of course, but one of the ways that we are thinking of immediately is the harmonization of the policy frameworks through regional integration and also enforcement of regional grid codes at project implementation phase. We know that we have got the EAPP grid code now. That one, if it could be used by countries that are executing projects during design, that one can at least remove those bottlenecks or difficulties when the project is nearing commissioning. Then engaging the countries also to embrace the sector-wide approach to planning of development projects. Yeah, if a country could approach a sector-wide approach, that is a number of sectors related, that is energy, water, and land. If their development projects can be like harmonized such that there would be no problems with like the servitude, the way leaves, those things that make projects become costly and delay, and even some of them terminated. That approach may also assist in this. Blending of the financiers also in a particular project, such that a financier can take a component that he's comfortable with. If maybe he doesn't want to finance a project in Tanzania, for example, he could finance a project in Kenya for a Kenya-Tanzania interconnection project. That approach also can be of assistance. And I think enforcement of generally of all these grid codes, I think assists so much in financing and also implementation of projects. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Aloisi. Johannes Gebrehardsidik, can you give us a quick?
Thank you, Julian. There's this interesting point that is raised in the chat about hydro coordination and how that's useful in terms of addressing the challenge of different scales of variability from the water resource system. I think even on a larger scale, we should also look at integration between different power pools. We can see that this synergy or different scales of variability could add significant resilience to the system, which means I could give you an example of these three power pools, the South African power pool, the Congo River Basin, the Nile Basin. These three major basins have their variability of sink, which means whenever there is drying in the southern Africa region, a relatively wet period is observed in either in Congo or in the Nile Basin. So this off-sync pattern is really important if we are going to integrate these power pools. We can add resilience to the system, both in terms of addressing this challenge with the seasonal variability or even larger scale variability, and at the same time also combat the challenge of climate change. So when we talk about coordination, there are different levels of coordinated operation, and there's different levels of integrations, and each one of them present its specific advantage to the region, and we should also take that into consideration during planning. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thank you, Johannes. I see that I was hoping to keep us 15 minutes over time. So why don't we quickly zip through with 1 minute or less. Let's get the three panelists once again to just give a final closing statement. What was the biggest idea that you got from the talks today that you're going to be investigating in the future and thinking about? Just leave us with that. And then if we have the Secretary General Changula or Technical Director Gebrhiwot, we'll let them have the final word if they're still available. But let's quickly go to the three panelists, Abdul Karim, Michael, and Mateus. If you could try to give your last thoughts in less than a minute. Thanks.
Shall I come in?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Just half a minute. For me, the biggest point really is moving forward, looking forward, integrating wind and solar with hydro, and at multiple scales is actually the major thing we need to explore in the future. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful, Abdul Karim. That was very quick, beautiful. Michael.
Thank you. But I think what I take from this discussion is the key point is a policy gap in terms of developing different sectors. And also what we talk about is resources, policies, and development plans. But what we missed is capacity gaps in terms of institutional capacity. So we need to also emphasize the enhancing the institutional and human capacity of the countries and also institutions to achieve the development goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Mateus.
Thank you, Julian. I just want to echo to Karim on this integrated hydro, wind, and PV, as well as other dispatchable renewables. I would add, and Julian, biogas, for example, energies in these regions. Is vitally important to do and design and develop systems that are climate resilient, affordable, sustainable, and flexible to tackle future challenges in the region.
Okay, those are very, very ambitious final points from all the panelists. Thank you. So I would be delighted to leave the last word to the leadership of the East African Power Pool. So I don't know if Secretary General Changula or Technical Director Gebrhiwot are still available. Okay, I realize the session was supposed to end 17 minutes ago. I'm very sorry as your host to have allowed it to delay. So sorry about that, but I'm very pleased. We just want to thank the panelists, thank the speakers, thank the organizers, and again to the other my co-caretakers, Michael Abibi, Loisi Odur, Azeb Mersha. Thank you so much, and the session is finished. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian.
Thank you so much.
Thank you and goodbye. Next time, please.